Marcus Chen pressed his face against the cold metal bars and watched the alien ships land. 3 months ago, these same ships had torn through Earth's defenses like paper. Now they came to collect the survivors. He pulled his 8-year-old daughter Emma closer to his chest. Her small hands gripped his shirt as the ground shook beneath them. Around their holding pen, hundreds of other humans waited in silence. Everyone knew what came next. "Daddy, I'm scared," Emma whispered. "I know, sweetheart. Just stay close to me." The Zephyrians emerged from their ships in perfect formation. They stood 7 feet tall with dark green exoskeletons that gleamed like polished armor. Their forearms moved with mechanical precision, and their large compound eyes missed nothing. Marcus had learned to hate those eyes during the invasion. A Zephyrian officer approached their pen. He spoke through a translation device that made his voice sound like grinding metal. "All humans will be processed for work assignments. Children under 10 will be separated for special evaluation." Marcus felt his blood turn to ice. "No, she stays with me." The officer's head turned toward him with insect-like movements. "Humans do not make demands. Please, she's just a child. I'll work harder if you let her stay." 2 Zephyrian guards stepped forward. Marcus knew he couldn't fight them and win, but he had to try. He pushed Emma behind him and raised his fists. The first guard hit him with a shock rod. Electric pain shot through his body and dropped him to his knees. Through the agony, he heard Emma screaming his name. "Daddy!" Marcus forced himself to stand. The second guard struck him across the face with the back of his hand. The blow sent him sprawling, but he got up again. "Stop fighting," the officer said. "You only make it worse." "Then let her stay with me." Another shock from the rod. This time Marcus stayed down longer. His vision blurred and his muscles twitched from the electricity, but he could still hear Emma crying. "The child shows interesting stress responses," the officer said to his guards. "Mark her for the special facility." "What special facility?" Marcus gasped. The officer ignored him. Guards moved into the pen and began separating families. Marcus watched in horror as they pulled children away from their parents. Some parents fought back and were beaten unconscious. Others collapsed in tears when they reached for Emma. Marcus threw himself between them and his daughter. "I said no." This time they didn't use the shock rod. A guard grabbed Marcus by the throat and lifted him off the ground. The alien's grip was impossibly strong. Black spots danced in Marcus's vision as he struggled to breathe. "Daddy," Emma's voice seemed to come from far away. The guard threw him aside like a broken toy. Marcus hit the ground hard and tasted blood. By the time he could focus again, Emma was gone. "Emma! Emma!" He crawled toward the pen entrance, but guards blocked his way. "Your daughter will be well cared for," the officer said. "If she proves useful." "Useful for what?" "Human children adapt faster than adults. We study this adaptation." Marcus felt something cold and terrible settle in his stomach. "You're experimenting on them." "We are learning. Knowledge benefits all species." The processing continued for hours. Marcus was assigned to Labor Group 7 and given a number instead of a name. They loaded him onto a transport ship with 50 other men. As the ship lifted off, he pressed his face to the small window and watched Earth shrink below them. 3 days later, Marcus stood in the main workyard of Station Kala 9. The space station orbited a dead planet and served as a processing center for human slaves. Marcus had spent those 3 days asking every human he met about the special facility where they took the children. An older man named David finally gave him answers. "It's here on the station," David whispered as they carried metal sheets to the construction site. "Level 15. High security. Nobody gets in or out without clearance. Have you seen any children?" "Sometimes. When I worked maintenance near that level, they looked different. Quiet. Like they forgot how to be kids." That night in the barracks, Marcus stared at the ceiling and made his plan. He needed to get to level 15. He needed clearance. And he needed to do it without getting himself killed. The next morning, he volunteered for the most dangerous job on the station. "I want to work for the Queen," he told the assignment officer. The Zephyrian looked at him like he was insane. "Queen Vixara's personal staff are selected for skill and loyalty." "You are a new slave with no training. Then train me. I'll do anything." The Queen's servants face discipline for the smallest mistakes. Many do not survive their first month. "I don't care." The officer studied him for a long moment. "Why do you request this assignment?" Marcus chose his words carefully. I want to serve the Empire in the highest capacity possible. It was a lie, but it sounded like something a defeated human might say. The officer made notes on his tablet. Report to orientation at dawn. If you survive the training, you may be considered for the Queen's household. Training was brutal. For 2 weeks, they taught Marcus how to serve alien royalty. He learned the complex protocols, the proper ways to stand and speak, and the consequences of failure. Those consequences usually involved pain. Marcus endured it all. When they beat him for walking too slowly, he got up and tried again. When they shocked him for speaking out of turn, he accepted the punishment and stayed silent. When they denied him food for failing to bow low enough, he simply bowed lower the next time. The trainers seemed surprised by his determination. Most humans broke down or fought back. Marcus did neither. He absorbed the abuse and kept moving forward. On his last day of training, they brought him before Queen Vexara herself. Marcus had never seen a Zephyrian royal before. Queen Vexara was magnificent and terrifying. She stood 8 feet tall with golden markings across her exoskeleton. Her forearms moved with fluid grace, and her compound eyes seemed to see everything at once. Power radiated from her like heat from a fire. "This human requests assignment to my personal staff," she said in perfect English. Her voice was rich and deep, nothing like the mechanical translations he was used to. "Yes, Your Majesty." "Do you understand what this means?" "I understand. I will serve you completely. You will be available at all hours. You will follow every command without question. You will endure punishment when you fail me, and you will fail me often. Most humans last 3 weeks before they beg for reassignment." Marcus met her gaze steadily. "I won't beg, Your Majesty." Something flickered in those alien eyes. Curiosity, maybe. Or amusement. We shall see. Queen Vexara accepted him into her household that day. Marcus was given quarters near the royal wing and access to restricted areas of the station, including level 15. That night, as he lay in his new bed, Marcus thought about Emma. She was somewhere on this station, probably scared and alone. But now he had a chance to reach her. He would endure whatever punishments came his way. He would take every beating, every shock, every humiliation the Queen gave him, and eventually he would find his daughter. Marcus closed his eyes and made a promise to the darkness. He would save Emma, no matter what it cost him. Marcus learned the Queen's schedule within his first week. She woke at dawn, reviewed reports from across the Empire, held court for 2 hours, then retreated to her private chambers. Each day followed the same pattern, and Marcus used that predictability to his advantage. He began making small mistakes on purpose. The first time, he served her morning meal 30 seconds late. Queen Vexara looked at him with those compound eyes and spoke in a voice like silk over steel. "You were instructed to serve at precisely dawn." "Yes, Your Majesty. I apologize." "Apologies do not correct poor performance." She gestured to her guards. They dragged Marcus to the punishment chamber adjacent to her quarters. The room was bare except for restraint devices and pain-inducing tools that Marcus tried not to look at too closely. The guards secured his arms above his head and stepped back. Queen Vexara entered carrying a neural whip, a device that sent electric shocks directly into nerve endings. 10 lashes for tardiness, she announced. The first strike felt like lightning crawling under his skin. Marcus bit his tongue to keep from screaming. The second blow made his vision white out. By the 5th, he was hanging from the restraints, unable to support his own weight. But he didn't beg. He didn't plead for mercy. He just endured. When it was over, Queen Vexara stood in front of him. "Do you understand your error?" "Yes, Your Majesty." "Will you repeat it?" Marcus raised his head and looked directly into her eyes. "I will try not to, Your Majesty." Something shifted in her expression. For just a moment, she looked confused. The guards released him and Marcus returned to his duties. But during the punishment, he had memorized every detail of the chamber's layout. More importantly, he had noticed the Queen watching him with unusual intensity. 3 days later, Marcus made another mistake. He knocked over a glass while cleaning her desk. The punishment was 15 lashes this time. Again, he endured without breaking. Again, the Queen watched him with that same puzzled expression. Marcus began to understand something about Zephyrian psychology. They expected submission or rebellion. They didn't know what to do with quiet endurance. Over the following weeks, Marcus made a mistake every few days. Nothing too obvious, nothing that would get him executed. Just small errors that earned him regular trips to the punishment chamber. Each time he learned something new about the station's security. During his beatings, he memorized guard rotations, identified weak points in the surveillance system, and mapped the areas near level 15. More importantly, he began to understand Queen Vexara herself. She always administered his punishments personally now. Other servants were disciplined by guards or junior officers, but the Queen handled Marcus herself. She would enter the chamber with clinical detachment, deliver the prescribed pain, then watch his reaction with scientific curiosity. Marcus realized she was studying him. After his 10th punishment session, Queen Vexara broke protocol. Instead of dismissing him immediately, she remained in the chamber. "You are different from other humans," she said. Marcus hung from the restraints, blood running down his back from the neural whip. "How so, Your Majesty? Most of your species either become servile or rebellious under discipline. You do neither." "I serve you as best I can, Your Majesty." "That is not what I observe." She walked closer. Her forearms moving in complex patterns that Marcus had learned indicated deep thought. "You accept punishment without pleading, but you also show no fear. This is inconsistent with human psychology as we understand it." Marcus chose his words carefully. Perhaps human psychology is more complex than first observations suggest. Queen Vexara's head tilted to one side. "Perhaps. Tell me, why do you not break?" The honest answer was Emma. Every lash he took brought him closer to finding his daughter, but he couldn't say that. "I believe in serving the Empire completely, Your Majesty. That includes accepting correction when I fail." "You believe in serving me?" "Yes, Your Majesty." She was quiet for a long moment. Then she did something that shocked Marcus more than any punishment. She reached out with one of her hands and touched his face. Her touch was gentle, almost careful. Her exoskeleton was surprisingly warm. "Interesting," she murmured. From that day forward, Queen Vexara's behavior toward Marcus changed subtly. She still punished his mistakes, but she began asking him questions afterward. She wanted to know about human culture, human emotions, human ways of thinking. Marcus answered carefully, always playing the role of a devoted servant. But he began to see glimpses of something unexpected in the Queen's manner. She seemed almost lonely. During one conversation, she revealed something that explained much about Zephyrian society. "My species does not form emotional bonds as humans do," she said. "We mate for genetic compatibility and raise offspring for the good of the colony. Individual attachment is considered a weakness." "That sounds efficient, Your Majesty." "Efficient, yes. But watching you, I begin to wonder if efficiency is all that matters." Marcus filed this information away. If the Queen was questioning her own species' values, he might be able to use that. His breakthrough came during his 15th punishment session. Marcus had deliberately spilled ink on an important document, earning him 25 lashes. By the end, he was barely conscious. As Queen Vexara unstrapped him from the restraints, Marcus did something he had never done before. He looked directly into her eyes and smiled. "Thank you, Your Majesty." The Queen froze. "You thank me for punishment? You could have had me executed for destroying that document. Instead, you chose correction. That shows mercy." It was a lie, but it was the kind of lie that revealed deeper truths. Marcus was grateful, not for the pain, but for every step it brought him closer to Emma. Queen Vexara stared at him for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was softer than he had ever heard it. "You are the most peculiar creature I have ever encountered. I serve at your pleasure, Your Majesty. Indeed you do." That night, Marcus lay in his quarters and reviewed what he had learned. Level 15 was guarded by a rotating shift of 12 soldiers. The surveillance system had blind spots near the maintenance shafts. The Queen's access codes could override any lock on the station. More importantly, Queen Vexara was becoming emotionally invested in him. Marcus didn't fully understand what that meant in Zephyrian terms, but he knew it was significant. He was making progress. Every beating brought him closer to his goal. Every moment of pain was worth it if it meant saving Emma. But as he touched the fresh wounds on his back, Marcus wondered how much more punishment his body could take. He was strong, but he wasn't superhuman. Eventually, the beatings would break him down. He needed to find Emma soon before his body gave out completely. Tomorrow, he would make another mistake. Tomorrow, he would endure another beating. And tomorrow, he would take another step toward rescuing his daughter. Marcus closed his eyes and thought about Emma's laugh. He held that sound in his mind like a shield against the pain. He would endure, he would survive, and he would save her. Marcus had been serving Queen Vexera for 6 weeks when she caught him trying to access a restricted terminal. He had been careful, waiting until the middle shift when most guards were focused on other duties. The terminal was located in a maintenance corridor near level 15, and Marcus had spent days memorizing the patrol schedules. But when he pressed his palm to the security scanner, alarms didn't sound. Instead, Queen Vexara's voice came from behind him. "That terminal requires royal clearance." Marcus spun around, his heart hammering against his ribs. The Queen stood 10 feet away, her golden markings seeming to glow in the dim corridor lighting. She was alone, which was unusual. Royalty always traveled with guards. "Your Majesty, I was lost. I was looking for the cleaning supplies. The supply closets are on level 3. This is level 14. She stepped closer, her forearms moving in patterns Marcus had learned to read as dangerous curiosity. "This terminal accesses personnel records and facility layouts." Marcus's mind raced. He could lie, but she would see through it. He could run, but she would catch him. He could fight, but that would be suicide. Instead, he chose honesty. "I was looking for information about the children's facility." Queen Vexara's compound eyes fixed on him with laser intensity. "Why?" "Because my daughter is there." The words hung in the air between them like a confession of treason. Marcus waited for her to call the guards, to order his execution, to end this desperate gamble once and for all. Instead, she asked, "Your daughter?" "Emma, she's 8 years old. They took her during processing and said she was going to a special facility. I need to know if she's safe." Queen Vexera was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice carried a strange note Marcus had never heard before. "You have been deliberately making mistakes to earn punishment." It wasn't a question. Marcus nodded. "You wanted access to restricted areas." Another nod. "You have been using pain as a tool to achieve your goals." "Yes, Your Majesty." "For your offspring?" "For my daughter, yes." Queen Vexara moved closer. Marcus could see his reflection fractured in her compound eyes. "In my species, offspring are raised by the colony. Individual parents have no special attachment to their genetic contributions. But you risk death for one small human. She's not just my genetic contribution. She's my daughter. She's everything." "Explain." Marcus struggled to find words that would make sense to an alien mind. "When she was born, I held her for the first time, and I knew that protecting her was the most important thing I would ever do. More important than my life, my freedom, my happiness. She is the best part of me." "This attachment causes you pain." "Yes, but it also gives me strength." Queen Vexara reached out and touched the terminal Marcus had been trying to access. Her palm scanner activated the system, and data flooded the screen. "Show me," she said. Marcus's hands shook as he navigated through the facility records. "There, sub-level 15, Special Research Wing. A list of test subjects, each identified by number rather than name. Number 47 was listed as female juvenile, age 8, Earth origin." "That's her," Marcus whispered. Queen Vexara manipulated the interface with practiced ease. Security footage appeared on the screen, showing a sterile white room filled with children. They sat at desks, working on tablets under the supervision of Zephyrian researchers. Marcus scanned the room desperately until he found her. Emma sat in the 3rd row, her dark hair longer than he remembered. She looked thinner, paler, but she was alive. "Emma," he breathed. As if she could hear him, Emma looked up from her tablet toward the camera. Her expression was blank, emotionless. She looked like a stranger wearing his daughter's face. "What are they doing to her?" Queen Vexara accessed another file. "The research protocol studies human adaptability. Subjects are exposed to Zephyrian language, culture, and social structures to measure integration capacity. You're erasing their humanity. We are studying adaptation mechanisms. The research benefits both species." Marcus felt rage building in his chest like a fire. "She's just a child. She needs love, play, stories, not experiments. Those needs are inefficient. Those needs are what make us human." The words came out louder than Marcus intended. He was shouting at the Queen of the Zephyrian Empire, committing a crime that would normally result in immediate execution. But Queen Vexara didn't call for guards. Instead, she studied the footage of Emma with new attention. "Show me," she said again. "Show you what?" This love you speak of, this connection between parent and offspring. I do not understand it. Marcus looked at Emma on the screen. His little girl who used to climb into his bed during thunderstorms, who made him birthday cards with stick figure drawings, who laughed at his terrible jokes and believed he could fix anything. I can't show you something you can't feel, he said quietly. Perhaps not, but I can observe its effects. Queen Vexara closed the terminal and turned to face him fully. You have endured weeks of punishment without breaking. You have shown intelligence, determination, and pain tolerance that exceeds my expectations of your species, all for one small human who cannot even help you. She doesn't need to help me. I help her. That's how love works. And this love makes you stronger? Marcus thought about all the beatings he had endured, all the pain he had absorbed without breaking. Yes? Fascinating. Queen Vexara began walking back toward the main corridors, and Marcus followed. I have studied many species, conquered many worlds, but I have never encountered this phenomenon you call parental love. What happens now? Marcus asked. Will you have me executed? No. Her answer surprised him. You will continue your duties as before, but there will be changes. What kind of changes? Queen Vexara stopped walking and turned to him. I wish to understand this bond you share with your offspring. You will help me study it, and Emma, the child will remain in the research facility for now, but I will ensure she receives better treatment. It wasn't what Marcus had hoped for, but it was more than he had expected. Thank you, Your Majesty. Do not thank me yet. Understanding this connection you call love may require extensive observation. Something in her tone made Marcus uneasy, but he was in no position to argue. I serve at your pleasure, Your Majesty. Indeed you do. Queen Vexara's compound eyes reflected the corridor lights like jewels. Indeed you do. That night Marcus lay in his quarters and stared at the ceiling. The Queen knew about Emma now. She knew about his desperate plan and his willingness to endure anything to save his daughter. But instead of executing him, she wanted to study him. Marcus wasn't sure if that was better or worse than death. One thing was certain, everything had changed. Queen Vexara was no longer just his captor and tormentor. She was becoming something else, something he didn't yet understand. And that frightened him more than any beating ever had. 3 days after Queen Vexara discovered his secret, Marcus was finally allowed to see Emma. The Queen escorted him personally to sub-level 15, past layers of security that would have taken him months to breach on his own. Guards snapped to attention as they passed, their movements sharp and precise. The visit will be monitored, Queen Vexara informed him as they walked. You will have 30 minutes. Thank you, Your Majesty. Do not thank me yet. What you see may not please you. The research facility was nothing like the brutal holding pens where Marcus had first been processed. The corridors were clean and bright, lined with observation windows that looked into classrooms and living areas. Through the glass, Marcus could see human children of various ages working at computer terminals or sitting in groups, while Zephyrian researchers took notes. They all looked wrong somehow. Too quiet, too compliant, like dolls dressed up to look like children. Queen Vexara led him to a small meeting room and gestured for him to wait. Through the transparent wall, Marcus watched her speak to a researcher in rapid Zephyrian. The alien's body language suggested surprise, possibly objection. But Queen Vexara's response ended the discussion quickly. Then Emma entered the room. Marcus's heart shattered and rebuilt itself in the same instant. His daughter was alive, unharmed, walking on her own 2 feet. But the bright, curious girl he remembered was gone. Emma moved with mechanical precision, her face empty of expression. When she saw Marcus, she showed no recognition. Emma? Marcus knelt down to her eye level. Sweetheart, it's Daddy. Emma stared at him with polite confusion. I am designated Research Subject 47. Are you my new instructor? The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He reached out to touch her face, but Emma stepped back. Physical contact is not permitted without authorization, she said in a voice that sounded like his daughter but felt like a stranger's. Marcus looked through the window at Queen Vexara. The alien stood perfectly still, watching his reaction with intense focus. Emma, don't you remember me? I'm your father. We used to read stories together before bed. You loved the one about the princess and the dragon. I do not have designated parental units. My care is provided by the research collective. No, sweetheart. Before the aliens came, before all this, we lived in the blue house with the big oak tree in the backyard. You had a stuffed rabbit named Mr. Whiskers. For just a moment, something flickered in Emma's eyes. Confusion, maybe. Or a memory trying to surface. I remember, Blue, she said slowly. And something soft. But those are irrelevant data fragments. Marcus felt tears running down his cheeks. They're not irrelevant. They're your life. Your real life. My current life is optimal for learning and growth. Your current life is a prison. Emma's face remained blank, but she tilted her head slightly. You display emotional distress. Should I summon medical assistance? Marcus wanted to grab her, to hold her, to somehow shake his real daughter back to the surface, but he forced himself to stay calm. Getting emotional would only reinforce whatever conditioning they had done to her. No, I'm fine. Can you tell me about your daily routine? I wake at dawn for nutrition intake. Then cognitive enhancement exercises until midday meal. Afternoon is dedicated to cultural integration studies. Evening includes group socialization activities and sleep preparation protocols. Do you enjoy any of it? Emma looked puzzled by the question. Enjoyment is not a relevant measure. These activities serve the greater purpose of adaptation and integration. Marcus spent the remaining 20 minutes trying different approaches. He told her stories from her childhood, sang songs she used to love, even tried to make her laugh with silly faces. Nothing worked. Emma responded to everything with the same polite, empty courtesy. When their time was up, Emma stood and walked toward the door without saying goodbye. Emma, wait. She paused. I love you, Marcus said. Whatever they've done to you, whatever they've made you forget, I will always love you. Emma stared at him for a long moment. Love is an inefficient emotional attachment that impedes optimal decision-making, she recited. But her voice wavered slightly on the word love. Then she was gone. Marcus sat alone in the meeting room, his head in his hands. All those beatings, all that pain, and for what? His daughter was alive, but she wasn't his daughter anymore. They had stolen her mind, her personality, everything that made her Emma. Queen Vexara entered the room and sat across from him. For the first time since he had known her, she seemed uncertain. This distresses you, she observed. Marcus looked up at her through tear-blurred vision. They destroyed her. They educated her. Gave her structure, purpose, knowledge. They turned her into a robot. They removed emotional inefficiencies that cause suffering. Marcus laughed bitterly. Suffering is part of being human. Joy, sadness, love, fear, you can't have one without the others. Why would you want to preserve something that causes pain? Because without pain, happiness means nothing. Without sadness, joy has no value. Without fear, courage is impossible. Marcus wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. My daughter used to be afraid of thunderstorms. So she would climb into my bed and I would hold her until the thunder stopped. That fear led to comfort. That comfort led to love. That love made both of us stronger. Queen Vexara was quiet for a long time. In my species, offspring are raised efficiently. No unnecessary emotional attachments. No inefficient comfort behaviors. And are you happy? Happiness is not a relevant concept. Then you're missing the best part of being alive. Queen Vexara stood and paced to the window. Beyond the glass, researchers were conducting tests on more human children. All of them showed the same empty compliance that Emma displayed. Your species is weaker than ours in every measurable way, the Queen said. Yet you resist conquest more effectively than any species we have encountered. Your soldiers fight harder. Your civilians endure more. Your leaders sacrifice themselves for abstract concepts like freedom and hope. Because we have something to fight for. These emotional attachments you value so highly. Yes, Queen Vexara turned back to him. Show me. Show you what? How these attachments create strength. You say love made you endure my punishments. Prove it. Marcus understood what she was asking. You want to see if you can break me by threatening Emma. I want to understand the mechanism. If love creates strength, what happens when love is threatened? For a moment, Marcus considered refusing. But then he realized this might be his only chance to make Queen Vexara understand what they were destroying. All right, he said. But if you're going to study love, you need to see all of it. Not just the strength it creates, but the vulnerability too. Vulnerability? Love means giving someone the power to destroy you and trusting them not to use it. Queen Vexara's compound eyes fixed on him with predatory intensity. And you are giving me this power? Marcus met her gaze steadily. You already have it. The question is what you'll do with it. Something shifted in the Queen's expression. For just a moment she looked almost uncertain. This is why you thanked me for beating you, she said suddenly. Not because you enjoyed the pain, but because each beating meant you were closer to her. Yes. And if I told you that ending these sessions would mean never seeing your daughter again? Marcus didn't hesitate. Then keep beating me. Queen Vexara stared at him for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was softer than he had ever heard it. I begin to understand why your species disturbs me so greatly. Because we're illogical? Because you are not. She moved closer to him, her forearms moving in complex patterns that Marcus had learned indicated deep thought. Your actions appear irrational, but they serve a purpose we do not comprehend. This love you speak of is not weakness disguised as strength. It is strength in a form we have never encountered. Marcus felt a flicker of hope. Will you help her? Will you help Emma remember who she was? Queen Vexara was quiet for a long moment. I will consider it. But first I must understand more about this bond between you. Much more. As they left the research facility, Marcus caught one last glimpse of Emma through an observation window. She was working at a terminal, her small fingers moving across the keys with mechanical precision. But just for a moment, she looked up toward the window where he stood, and Marcus could have sworn he saw a flicker of recognition in her eyes. 2 months after seeing Emma, Marcus stood in Queen Vexara's private chambers and listened to her explain why she might have to kill him. The High Council questions my judgment, she said, her forearms moving in agitated patterns. They believe I have become compromised by prolonged exposure to human emotional manipulation. Marcus set down the tea service he had been arranging and gave her his full attention. Over the past weeks, their relationship had evolved in ways he never could have imagined. The Queen still punished his mistakes, but now she asked for his opinions on matters of governance. She had begun learning about human culture, emotions, and psychology with the same intensity she once applied to military strategy. What does that mean? Marcus asked. It means Lord Commander Thakara has formally challenged my fitness to rule. According to our laws, he may demand a trial of worthiness. A trial? Queen Vexara moved to the large window that overlooked the station's central plaza. If I am to remain queen, I must prove my strength has not been compromised. Any challengers I have chosen as advisors or companions must also prove their worth. Marcus felt ice forming in his stomach. They want to test me. They want to expose you as a weakness to be eliminated. If you fail their trials, you will be executed as proof that I have been corrupted by human influence. And if I pass, then you will be formally recognized as my chosen consort, with all the protections and responsibilities that entails. Marcus stared at her. Consort? Queen Vexara turned from the window, her compound eyes reflecting the afternoon light. I have come to understand that what your species calls love creates a form of strength my people have never developed. This strength intrigues me. You intrigue me. I'm honored, Your Majesty. But I don't understand what you're asking. I am asking you to stand with me before the High Council and prove that a human can be worthy of Zephyrian respect. That the bond we have formed is not weakness, but a new kind of power. Marcus thought about Emma, still trapped in the research facility, still speaking in that empty mechanical voice. What about my daughter? If you become my consort, you will have the authority to order changes to the research protocols. You could reunite with your child and ensure she receives treatment that preserves her humanity, rather than erasing it. It was everything Marcus had hoped for, and more, but the price might be his life. What do these trials involve? 3 challenges. First, combat against a Zephyrian warrior to prove physical capability. Second, a strategic scenario to demonstrate intellectual worth. Third, a test of cultural understanding to show you can bridge the gap between our species. And if I fail any of them, then you die, and I am stripped of my rank for allowing human weakness to corrupt my judgment. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When do we begin? Queen Vexara's mandibles clicked, and what Marcus had learned was the Zephyrian equivalent of a smile. Tomorrow at dawn. The entire High Council will observe. That night Marcus lay in his quarters and tried to prepare for what might be his last day alive. Queen Vexara had spent the evening teaching him advanced Zephyrian combat techniques and explaining the political nuances he would need to understand. Remember, she had told him, they will expect you to fight like a human. Use that expectation against them. The combat trial took place in the station's main arena. Marcus entered to find himself facing Warlord Zektar, a massive Zephyrian whose exoskeleton bore the scars of 1,000 battles. The alien stood 9 feet tall and carried 4 weapons, one in each hand. The High Council watched from an elevated platform. Lord Commander Thakara sat in the center, his golden armor gleaming with authority. Marcus could see the contempt in his compound eyes. "Begin," Thakara commanded. Warlord Zektar attacked immediately, all 4 weapons moving in a coordinated assault that should have overwhelmed any opponent. But Marcus didn't try to match the alien's strength or speed. Instead, he used techniques Queen Vexara had taught him, rolling under attacks, using the Zephyrian's momentum against him, striking at joint weak points in the exoskeleton. The battle lasted 15 minutes. When it ended, Warlord Zektar lay unconscious on the arena floor, and Marcus stood over him with one of the alien's own weapons pressed to his throat. The High Council buzzed with surprised discussion. No human had ever defeated a Zephyrian warrior in single combat. "The first trial is complete," Thakara announced, his voice carefully neutral. The second trial was a strategic simulation. Marcus was presented with a complex military scenario involving multiple species, shifting alliances, and limited resources. He had 2 hours to develop a comprehensive strategy. Marcus approached the problem differently than a Zephyrian would. Instead of focusing on military dominance, he looked for ways to create mutually beneficial outcomes. His solution involved forming alliances based on shared interests rather than fear, using economic incentives alongside military pressure. When he presented his strategy to the High Council, the room fell silent. Finally, Admiral Kexana spoke. This approach would result in less territory conquered but more stable long-term control. "Yes," Marcus replied. "Sometimes the strongest victory is the one that doesn't require constant fighting to maintain." More discussion among the council members. Marcus could see some of them reconsidering their assumptions about human intelligence. "The second trial is complete," Thakara said. "The third trial was the most complex." Marcus was required to demonstrate deep understanding of both human and Zephyrian cultures, showing how the 2 species could benefit from cooperation rather than domination. Marcus stood before the High Council and spoke about the power of diversity, the strength that came from different perspectives working together. He explained how human emotional bonds could complement Zephyrian efficiency, how human creativity could enhance Zephyrian technology. But his most powerful argument came when he talked about Emma. "You took my daughter and tried to erase her humanity," he said, looking directly at Lord Commander Thakara. "You saw her emotions, her individuality, her capacity for love as weaknesses to be eliminated. But those qualities are not weaknesses. They are the source of human resilience." Marcus gestured to Queen Vexara. "Your queen understood this. She saw that my willingness to endure any punishment for my child's sake was not foolishness, but a form of strength your species had never encountered. That is why I am here, not because I have abandoned my humanity, but because I have shown its true power." The arena was completely silent. Marcus could hear his own heartbeat in the quiet. Lord Commander Thakara rose from his seat. "You speak of strength, human, but you are still just one fragile creature standing before the might of the Zephyrian Empire." "Yes," Marcus agreed, "I am one human, but I am a human who loves his daughter enough to face death for her. I am a human who has earned the respect of your queen through determination and sacrifice. I am a human who has proven that what you see as weakness is actually strength you have never learned to recognize." He straightened his shoulders and looked each council member in the eye. "I am worthy of standing beside Queen Vexara not despite my humanity, but because of it." Lord Commander Thakara studied him for a long moment. Then, to Marcus's amazement, the alien leader bowed his head in acknowledgement. "The trials are complete. The human has proven his worth." Queen Vexara rose from her seat, her golden markings seeming to glow with triumph. "Then let it be recorded that Marcus Cheneverth is recognized as my chosen consort, with all rights and protections thereof." The formal ceremony took place that evening. Marcus knelt before Queen Vexara as she placed a golden collar around his neck, the symbol of his new status. But the collar was not a mark of slavery. It was a badge of honor, proof that a human had earned a place at the highest levels of Zephyrian society. As the ceremony concluded, Queen Vexara leaned close to him. "Your first official act as my consort will be to reform the children's research protocols. And Emma will be returned to you tomorrow, with her memories and personality intact." The next morning, Marcus waited in the same meeting room where he had seen his broken daughter months before. When Emma entered, she moved with the same mechanical precision as before. But when she saw Marcus, she stopped. "Daddy?" The word was barely a whisper. "Hello, sweetheart." Emma ran to him, then throwing her arms around his neck. "I remembered," she sobbed into his shoulder. "I remembered Mr. Whiskers and the blue house and the stories and everything. I thought it was all gone, but it wasn't." Marcus held his daughter and felt tears streaming down his face. "I know, baby, I know. Daddy's here now. Daddy's here." 6 months later, Marcus stood on the observation deck of Queen Vexara's flagship and watched Earth growing larger in the view screen. The planet looked different now. Zephyrian cities rose alongside human settlements, and the orbital stations buzzed with activity from both species. Emma ran up beside him, chattering excitedly about the new school she would attend on Earth. She spoke fluent Zephyrian now, but she had retained all her human warmth and curiosity. She was a bridge between worlds, just as Marcus had become. Queen Vexara joined them at the viewport, her 4 arms moving in the contented patterns Marcus had learned to read as happiness. "Do you regret it?" she asked him quietly. "Giving up your simple human life for all this complexity?"